So the race will come down to a handful of battleground states, including Pennsylvania. Election day in-person voting is already underway in the state's two biggest cities, Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. President Trump won there back in 2016 by a narrow margin, and the state's 20 electoral votes could prove critical once again. The president and Joe Biden held competing campaign events there yesterday. Here's some of what they had to say.
Biden's plan to ban fracking is an economic death sentence for Pennsylvania. Biden's energy shutdown will wipe out your jobs, decimate your towns, eliminate your factories, and send your state into a nightmare of crippling poverty.
And last night, Trump went on to say he was going to fire Dr. Fauci. Well, I've got a better idea. Let's fire Trump and I'll hire Fauci.
So CBSN political reporter Caitlin Huey-Burns has been covering Pennsylvania and joins us now from Philadelphia. Nice to see you in the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection. So let's talk about the candidates' closing messages of this campaign. Certainly in Pennsylvania, President Trump took aim at the governor here, Governor Wolf.
Hi, good morning, Anne-Marie. Well, polls just opened here at 7 a.m. at the top of the hour, and as you can see from the line behind me, people are waiting in this cold morning to be able to cast their ballot on this election day. But we've been talking to voters over the past several days who have been dropping off their absentee ballots at secure drop boxes in various different areas of the state. You played that sound at the top from Donald Trump and from Joe Biden. Those are the closing messages really here in Pennsylvania. The president campaigning in places where he won in 2016. He was able to flip 3 key counties here in Pennsylvania in 2016 from the Democrats, and that helped him win the state, but just by about 44,000 votes. So voters here know that every vote counts in Pennsylvania. From the former vice president, who has been campaigning all across the state, but really focusing on places like here in Philadelphia and the surrounding suburbs. That's where they feel the movement and the possible realignment of the parties could be. So focusing on that message of coronavirus and casting this as a referendum of the president's handling of the pandemic.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit more about that. The president and former Vice President Biden were in the northeast and western parts of Pennsylvania yesterday. You're in Philadelphia. You were in the suburb of Bucks County. It's about an hour outside of Philly, but it's considered, you know, a suburb of Philadelphia. And this is sort of a really crucial area. And when the president talks about, you know, saving the suburbs, appealing to suburban women, he's talking about suburbs like Bucks County.
That's exactly right, Anne-Marie. That's an area that Hillary Clinton won by just about fewer than 3,000 votes, so could be a close race there. And that's kind of where both campaigns have been targeting voters. Over the weekend, the president stopped in Bucks County. We've seen former Vice President Joe Biden also campaign there as well. And what was really interesting, what we found standing outside the county courthouse there, where people could drop off their absentee ballots, was that we were out there for about 6 hours and people were waiting in line to do what's called curing a ballot. Here in Pennsylvania, if you filled out an absentee ballot and you put it in, you will be notified if you filled it out incorrectly. Either you missed a signature or didn't date the back of the envelope or anything like that. So those were people who were notified that they had to come in and get the opportunity to correct their ballot. People were waiting in line in the cold to do just that. So that suggests a lot of enthusiasm about voting here and getting your votes in. In this line, right behind me, that's still going on, I talked to the first person in this line. She said that she was waiting at 5:30 in the morning. Here in Philadelphia is where Biden really wants to ramp up his support as well. So these are a few areas to watch here on Election Day and tonight as the results come in.
So both candidates have been really pushing the get out the vote message in the final days of the campaigns, hoping to get, you know, any of those voters who may have sat out the last election or, you know, who don't show up when you do polling. How could that factor in to in-person voting today?
That's a great point, Anne-Marie. We've seen in the early vote totals that Democrats are outpacing Republicans in a variety of states and here in Pennsylvania in terms of getting their ballots in or voting early. But the president's campaign is depending on a surge in in-person voting. He's been really messaging to his voters and arguing that his voters will show up on election day to make up for that gap that we've seen in early returns. But it's interesting, as we've been here on the ground at various different locations across around the area in the past few days, several supporters of the president have been voting absentee and voting early. We talked to one woman in line also here today who was voting for the president, saying that she always votes on election day, and she does it because she likes to make sure her ballot, her vote counts. But that's what we'll be watching for today, if the president can make up those margins in the day of voting.
Yeah, that will be key. In Pennsylvania, we haven't had the option of voting early, unless you had a reason. With a reason, you could, but this is the first time that is sort of widespread open to everyone. So that's a whole new thing for Pennsylvania to have to deal with when it comes to counting the votes and all that sort of stuff. Anyways, we'll talk about all of that, I'm sure, much more as the day unfolds. For now, Caitlin, I can see it's chilly, so thank you so much.